to give time to Reynaldo. I'm just going to read through my quick presentation and then let Reynaldo continue. So since the early days of the Cuban Revolution in 1959, broad cross-section of society has supported the progressive and far-reaching achievements of the Cuban people. Cuba's effort to eliminate illiteracy, provide quality universal health care and education from childcare through universities, and impress undermines the values of respect, dignity, and community in an attempt to alter social relations between classes are causes for celebration. Internationally, Cuba assists in literacy campaigns and provides doctors and medical aid to poor and disaster-stricken areas, as well as providing education and training to medical students from impoverished countries as its Latin American Medical School in Havana, all free of charge. Not to forget the Cuban doctors who perform eye surgeries on thousands of patients from various countries, restoring their eyesight, again, all free of charge. At the same time, Cuba is continually threatened militarily, economically, and politically by the United States. In the early 90s, following the loss of major trading partners with the breakup of the Soviet Union and having survived 30 years of the U.S. blockade, Cuba was going through a very difficult time known as the Special Period. Taking this opportunity to make matters worse, the United States, which had tried successively by way of sanctions, sabotage, and subversion to overthrow the Cuban government, further strengthened the blockade with the additional Torricelli law, the bill officially named the Cuban Democracy Act and presented by the U.S. Congressman Robert Torricelli, and it passed in 1992, prohibiting food and medicines from being shipped to Cuba. In addition, the U.S. started the Track 2 program meant to support anti-Castro groups in Cuba. That not being enough, in the fall of 1995, U.S. Senator Helms, a Republican from North Carolina, and U.S. Representative Don Burton, a Republican from Indiana, co-sponsored the Cuban Liberty and Democracy Solidarity Act, known as the Helms-Burton Act. He signed to discourage foreign investment and bring Cuba to its knees. The act passed in March of 1996. It was during this time that the worker-to-worker Canada-Cuba Labour Solidarity Network was formed and supported by a group of labor activists who recognized the unique challenges Cuba is facing in the struggle to assert its sovereignty. Using the slogan, Hands of Cuba, the goal was to bring discussions and debates to union conventions and conferences via resolutions, providing information to the members, and to asking for action from union leaders by condemning false, misleading anti-Cuba propaganda was strong. My own local executive would not approve and sign a pro-Cuba resolution for submission to the convention's resolution committee. Luckily, I knew of another local who would sign the resolution and send it in with their submissions. With continuous effort by members of our group, informing and educating and organizing speakers to the pro-mics, resolutions against the U.S. blockade finally passed. At a later time, we also included resolutions to return the Cuban child Elian Gonzalez from Miami, Florida, to his father in Cuba, as well as the continuous resolutions for justice and freedom for the Cuban Five. All made it to the floor for discussion and vote and were passed unanimously. Our next step was to request that a provincial unit division invite 1 or 2 members from the Cuban National Union, the Centro de Trabajadores de Cuba, as international guests to their convention. Hearing from the Cuban Union brothers in person became a major breakthrough in building relations between Canadian and Cuban unions. Through worker-to-worker facilitated links, unions like the United Steelworkers, the United Food and Commercial Workers, the Canadian Union of Postal Workers, and my union, the Canadian Union of Public Employees, developed direct relationships with their sister unions in Cuba. These unions and other labor organizations, such as the Canadian Labour Congress, the Ontario Federation of Labour, and even small locals, have supported and helped by donating funds for some of the worker-to-worker activities, and when disaster strikes Cuba, like almost yearly hurricanes, they have made contributions to the Cuba Hurricane Relief Fund. To this day, worker-to-worker facilitates labor exchanges, hosts labor forums and conferences, organizes delegations to labor, women, solidarity conferences in Cuba, and of course, to May Day events. to continue building links in solidarity and understanding between Canadian and Cuban union sectors and workers. In addition, by working 16 years with Canadian and international solidarity groups and attending the international colloquiums held yearly in Cuba, by participating with the 5 Days for the Five held in Washington, D.C., Worker to Worker played a fundamental role demanding justice in the release for the Cuban Five. In this, Worker to Worker had strong support from major national and local unions in Canada, and even from Unite, the largest union in the United Kingdom. Despite our struggles, the blockade is still in place today. But as many of you know, we have enjoyed one victory when Obama released the last 3 of the Cuban Five on December 17, 2014 from U.S. prisons and allowed them to return to their homeland. Promoting the labor solidarity between Canadian and Cuban unions is not always easy. Labor leaders change and have different viewpoints. Changing global and local economic and political situation have an impact. Members' demands are first jobs, job security, decent wages, good benefits and working conditions, etc. And I'm getting old and tired. Toward the end of President Obama's term in the White House, a move to improve diplomatic relations between U.S. and Cuba and the engagement in the process toward normalization of bilateral relations made us all hopeful. We are now in the year 2017, and despite our international demands, the blockade has not been lifted. And in a very hostile speech using old anti-Cuban rhetoric, the now U.S. President Trump promised to roll back all progress and achievements made so far. During my travels to Cuba, I met many wonderful Cuban people, and one of them is Reynaldo, rector of the University of Holguín, Cuba. Reynaldo will give an update on the changes and challenges Cuba is facing today and provide us with information regarding solidarity work between the University of Holguín and Canadian international universities. Thank you.
Thank you, Heide. In my mind, I speak English okay, but the practice is not true. I'm sorry for the translation. Well, I prefer to read my speech. Cuba is actualizing its socio-economic model and has designed a national plan to 2030, defining the vision of the country and the strategic sector, allowing not only to preserve the social gains obtained so far, but also its economic development. As a result, it's very important the creation of the new law of foreign capital investment that will facilitate the mechanics to establish a business in conjunction with other countries on the economic curriculum of more interest, such as tourism, infrastructure, construction, agriculture, as well as renewable energy. A new special development zone has been built with the potential to become a leader as a logistical operator for its privileged geographical position in the Caribbean, with a portfolio of projects that have drawn a lot of attention for many investors. In this new age, it has also the creation of the new forms of economic gestion, small and medium-sized private enterprises. And they are becoming a very important part of the creation of the job in different sectors of the productive and service. Also, is significant in this new scenario the opening of the European Union to negotiate with Cuba alongside its partner in Latin America, Russia and China, showing the diversification of the commerce of the island. In this context, the United States President Barack Obama promotes and stimulated the change in the relation between Cuba and the United States, beginning the road to the normalization of its vincles. He was very clear expressing that the United States policies against Cuba has failed, and it was needed to change the tactic to promote the change that the different government of his country wanted in Cuba. This new policy, this new policy facilitated some commercial operations, mostly in aliments, and created a bilateral commission to study topics that will be analyzed in the normalization process. Direct flight between both countries was established after more than 50 years, as well direct postal service facilitating the visit of American citizens to Cuba as long as qualified in 12 categories. Despite the announcements, most of the modifications did not become effective in the economic and financial sector. The culminant point of the process was the visit of President Obama to Havana, the first of the city presidents in 90 years. Also, in this period, the academic, cultural, the scientific, and athletic exchange and high-level visits were increased. After 20 years presenting resolution of the UN against blockade for the first time, the United States abstained. After 2016 election, when the President Trump took the power, he has scaled the policy against the Cuban people, eliminating most of the advance accomplished during the Obama administration, reinforcing the blockade, increasing the restriction to the American people to visit Cuba. to damage the tourism. In recent days, affecting the immigration agreement, reducing drastically the number of diplomats at both embassies, almost stopping consular services. All of these have an enormous negative impact in the quality of life of the Cuban people. That's why the support and solidarity of our friends is more important than ever. The impact of the blockades are devastating and affect all aspects of Cuban life. Just an example, which is not mentioned a lot, is to the university, specifically its professor, reducing the international programs, limiting also the participation of United States academics to events in Cuba. It has become more difficult for Cuban university professors to publish in high-impact scientific magazines, to access many websites, and the training of a special education professional because it's not possible to buy braille machines. Adequate equipment can only be acquired in market as far as China. The Canadian people has always been a close ally to the Cuban people. The visit of union leaders, solidarity groups, academics, students, and the Canadian people to Cuba has resolved a vital change between both countries. As Heide Trampus said just before me, there are many manifestations of the Canadian solidarity, such as volunteer work brigades in different economic and social institutions, donation in emergency situations, and always supporting the Cuban plight to end for one and all cruel blockade to our country. I also want to mention the intense activity developed by worker to worker to promote the friendship and solidarity between Cuban and Canadian workers and their union. Worker to worker planted the seed of the relation between the Western University and the University of Guinea for 15 years, increasing the link with the participation of Canadian professors at events in our university, webcast, and the Scientific International Conference as platform to develop of solidarity activities, not just of the Western University professor, but also more than 25 Canadian universities, many more than 25 Canadian universities, many of which have signed official collaboration agreements propitiating the participation of representatives of many countries, helping to expand the solidarity labor with Cuba. in conclusion, well, the picture about the Canadian people in Cuba, many Canadians. In my conference, in my university. In conclusion, University of Virginia has strengthened the connection with Canadian University, making the academic and affective relation of the Canadian and Cuban university community closer than ever. The Canadian solidarity movement with Cuba is very strong and has demonstrated solidity, organization, and commitment with the cause of the Cuban Revolution. It's very important that more people, especially young people, see Cuba not just as a sun and beach destination, and join with the solidarity movement through the participation in Workers, Che Guevara Brigade, and other ways. Finally, I want to thank for the solidarity and support to the Cuban people, especially after the devastation caused by this horrific hurricane. Thank you very much.